Senator Paolino.
Here.
Senator Acosta.
Present.
Senator Cano.
Here.
Senator Chacon.
Present.
Senator Murray.
Present.
Senator Seveny.
Here.
Senator Sosnowski.
Here.
We have 9 members. There is a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Thank you to the members of the committee for joining us today. We do have a lengthy agenda. We are going to begin on our budget hearings on House Bill 6122 for both the Department of Labor and Training, FY21 supplemental and FY22 budgets, as well as Article 3, Section 1, the employer tax unit transfer. We'll begin hearing from DLT on that item. And then after that, we will move to the Department of Business Regulations, both FY21 supplemental and FY22 budgets, as well as Article 2, Sections 2 and 3, Article 3, Section 2, Article 6, Sections 1 through 3, and Article 9, Sections 1. I do know we have Joe Codega with the Budget Office with us, and Joe, I will turn it over to you to begin introducing those articles and budgets and introducing the members of the administration that are here today.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Glad to be here tonight to testify on behalf of the Budget Office. My name is Joe Codega, Deputy Budget Officer. And as the Chairman mentioned, we'll begin with the Department of Labor and Training. Joining us tonight is Sarah Bluchewitz, the Chief Operating Officer, and she's supported by a few other staff members at DLT, including Diane Gagne, Chief Financial Officer, Angelica Pellegrino, Assistant Director for Policy and Program Development, and Kathy Catanzaro, Assistant Director for Income Support, in case any questions arise. Additionally, we have standing by Nina Savage, the Tax Administrator, who's available in case there are any questions related to the employer tax unit transfer. And then moving on to the next item of the agenda, testifying from the Department of Business Regulation when we get there on the DBR budget, as well as related budget articles. We'll be joined by Director Liz Tanner, Brian Riggs, the Assistant Director, Financial and Contract Management, their CFO, Liz Dwyer, Deputy Director, and Julietta Georgakis, Deputy Director. We should also have with us Patrick Teague, the Health Insurance Commissioner, and Maria Casal, Director of Finance, also from the Office of the Health Insurance Commissioner. With that, I know we have a lengthy agenda. I'll stand by in case there are any questions, but otherwise, I would like to pass it off to Sarah Bluchewitz and the Department of Labor and Training.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I have a brief presentation to show about our department and our budget articles at the moment. So we'll be covering unemployment insurance, temporary disability insurance, and workforce development initiatives. Unemployment during COVID-19 has resulted in over 470,000 people being paid unemployment insurance benefits. Those benefits total over $3.1 billion, the majority of which has come from federal sources from the CARES Act. However, $651 million has come from the Rhode Island Trust Fund. These benefits are typically for your regular, your usual unemployment insurance program. Extensions, new programming, PUA, etc. has all come from federal sources. The good news is the Rhode Island Trust Fund balance remains solvent. We still have $120 million remaining in the balance. This chart just shows you at a glance what unemployment insurance claim rates have looked like since the pandemic began. So you can see that initial spike at the beginning as the economy shut down and a lot of businesses were shuttered. The other peaks you can see tend to follow either additional health department guidelines or business regulations or additional federal programming and of other programs. Oh, excuse me. So the federal programming comes from several different sources. Here you can see a breakdown of the different programming. The federal budget pays for about 80% of benefits, and the Rhode Island Trust Fund pays about 20%. The funding streams and the Rhode Island Trust Fund balances have remained healthy. They have been in decline. You can see here the red bar graph at the bottom shows the cumulative amount of benefits being paid throughout the pandemic. In addition, the blue line you can see is the trust fund balances. So again, coming low, but still solvent, which is the good news, unlike in the recession when we went below zero and had to take federal loans. The amount of UI claims coming in has forced us to modernize our systems. So we have the Amazon Web Services allowing us to do pandemic unemployment insurance applications on the cloud and to move our phone-based systems to the cloud as well. This just allows more capacity, unlike our analog systems where it limited the physical number of people who could access our phone services at one time.
Hey, Sarah, before you go too far, do you mind if I interrupt you for just a minute?
Sure.
Joe, could we go back to slide 5 for a second? So Sarah, taking a look at this, I think definitely a great news we haven't gone in the red, and I know that at one point, last year at some point, I think we were projecting we would go in the red, so really good that we haven't. Could you talk a little bit about the correlation between this balance and the UI tax schedule, and is there a way to make it a direct correlation around certain dollar amounts within the fund would then trigger different tax schedules, and what are the important ones for us to, what's the important balances for us to be able to hit to make sure we understand based on how much cash is in what the tax schedule is going to be?
Yeah, I will actually have our CFO answer that question because tax schedule will probably be more on her line. So Diane, can you jump in on that one?
Actually, I hate to say this, but that's really not me. That's Donna Murray, our LMI person. So I'm not sure if Kathy Catanzaro is on this call too, if she's a little more aware than I am. I know we are currently on Schedule H. I can tell you that. The max schedule would be Schedule I. Having a brief conversation with Matt about it today, we probably will wind up at Schedule I, but I'm not sure what that trigger is to get us there or how much it would need to be to stop us from getting there. So I'm not sure if Kathy can weigh in anything right now, but we could definitely get that information for you.
Yeah, we can pull that information from the labor market information unit for you.
Okay. No, that'd be great. And I think Diane, the way that you framed it is the correct one, which would be what thresholds in the fund would trigger which taxation schedules. And so that way we can understand any movements in or outside the fund, if there would be a benefit for us doing that and what the benefit would be from a taxation standpoint.
Okay. That's for you.
Before we go too much further, I know Senator Paolino, I think you have a question on total claimants.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to, I think it was on slide 1, clarify. So there were 474,000 different Rhode Islanders that have been collecting unemployment since March 9th?
Yeah, so the total number would be total people who've been paid. So that does include people who worked in Rhode Island, may live outside of Rhode Island because unemployment is based on where your employment is. It would also include any fraudulent claims that we have processed as well. So it would be any claim that we process for any eligible person based on the eligibility at the time that the claim was paid.
Okay, that was my second question. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the committee so far on claimant numbers or trust fund? Okay. All right, hearing none. Sarah, thank you, and please proceed.
Sure. So all of that work collectively has resulted in Rhode Island actually being positioned as best in the nation in terms of timeliness of paying. So we are the only state that's reaching the 90th percentile in terms of the paying claims within 2 weeks of receiving a claim. We led the nation at the beginning of the pandemic, and we continue as recent as this past March in being the fastest paying state for getting the most people the benefits that they need. Recognizing with that many claims being paid, nationally fraud in unemployment insurance has been a problem. Rhode Island has confirmed that over $45 million has been paid to confirm fraudulent claims. The department is working to recapture that fraudulent payments, and so to date we have recaptured over $3.5 million. However, we are also implementing a lot of robust fraud prevention measures. That has, in our estimate, prevented $3.2 billion from going out to fraudsters because we stopped the claim. This estimate is based off of if that claim had progressed, what would have been the average duration and the average payment of the claim, and that's how we estimated the $3.2 million.
And Sarah,
Fraud effort, yes?
On that number, so thinking through the total there, if we're not, so of the 45.1 that's been 3.5 we've recovered, so the other 42-ish in fraud, if we're not able to recover that, does the amount of the fraud basically come from its original payer source? So if the feds paid 80% of it, the feds hold 80% of the loss. How is that distributed backwards?
Yeah, it's not, so Rhode Island doesn't have to reimburse for fraudulent payments. And Diane, do you want to speak more to that?
Yeah, that is true, Sarah. As we know right now, we will not have to reimburse the fraudulent payments. I believe more of the fraud has come from the federal sources, actually. So that 80-20 split you saw is probably not going to apply in this distribution. And Kathy is more versed on where the fraud is coming from, but I'm confident the federal sources.
I guess the root of the question would be we wouldn't have to take anything out of the state trust fund to backfill federal fraud.
No.
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So dealing with fraud, oh, I'm sorry.
I think you're good to go.
So dealing with fraud is a multifaceted issue for us. So there is several levels of fraud prevention that we're implementing at the department. That deals with everything from the individual user and the individual claimant and their data and validating them as an individual. Also more sophisticated examples of looking for fraud in patterns of claims and trying to apply prevention across groupings of claim data as well. So this just sort of as a breakdown that fraud prevention is in the pandemic hasn't been your typical working and collecting issue that we might have been prevalent as the number one source of fraud pre-pandemic. This is more of your cyber fraud. So these are the things that hit, credit card companies, bank companies, these are that hijacker frauds where they're using valid social security numbers, valid contact and personal information to pretend to be a valid Rhode Islander to collect claims. And so we're working with Verus Analytics and AWS to continually improve our systems to try to combat that very sophisticated cyber fraud. Temporary disability insurance. So the TDI program has also seen an uptick in claims due to the pandemic. So we saw 11,000 more claims in 2020 than in 2019. The average weekly benefit is around just over $500. And however, we have seen that the duration of claims has shrunk during 2020 compared to 2019. This again is COVID related. So folks were accessing TDI for things like quarantine or actual COVID illness related issues. A lot different than, say, a more sustained injury or illness issue pre-pandemic. An important thing to note, you cannot collect TDI and an unemployment insurance at the same time, so these are two separate claimant populations. Recognizing that detachment from the workforce due to COVID is one of the most pressing issues that we're facing today, workforce development is a large priority of the department. Real Jobs Rhode Island is one of our largest workforce initiatives. Over 5.45 million of the state's, the department's state funds go to Real Jobs Rhode Island. Since its inception, Real Jobs has served over 11,000 people, getting them either into a new job, upskilling them to remain competitive at a current job, and also supporting entrepreneurs and small business owners and their workforce. This work takes place over 34 industry partnerships that are throughout Rhode Island's strategic sectors in our economy, and 3/4 of people who go through a Real Jobs training program are placed upon completion. During the pandemic, again, the need for putting people back to work launched the Back to Work initiative. So Rhode Island used $45 million in CARES Act to support job training and job training placement assistance. This program alone, in addition to Real Jobs work that had been going on as part of our normal business, the Back to Work initiative on top of that enrolled an additional 4,000 people, and more enrollees are coming every day because this program is still underway. And we have placed over 2,200 people either through upskilling or new job placement. Some companies decided to sign on to this initiative without needing direct funding to support their work. So we have 161 placements that come by way of there was no funding attached to it, but the corporate citizen wanted to participate and be part of that overall initiative. And an important component part of Back to Work was the supportive services, recognizing that folks were in a pandemic. We wanted to ensure that they had things like housing and food and technology access, things to help them participate in their trainings or their new job. So 13% of the Back to Work participants have received support service, and on average, those participants tend to receive at least 3 different types of support services. And with that, that concludes our presentation.
Thank you, Sarah. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Senator Palmer.
Thank you, Chairman. Sarah, just a follow-up question on the fraud piece, because I'm sure like several of my other colleagues, it happened to me, got caught soon enough, the person still got the $500 check. But one of the things that was interesting in it is the address to which it was sent was an address that I lived at 27 years ago. So, and I understand and appreciate the artificial intelligence side of things, the analytics that are there. You might want to just touch base with the folks who are doing some of that, that if they looked at current addresses, they would have found out that having lived there in 27 years, that could have been a flag for stopping $500 or something for going to an individual as part of that. I don't know if that's the only thing, but that was certainly a factor in the fraud that I had in my case, that when it happened back, and I called the DLT, took care of it right away, which is great, probably in the neighborhood of November of last year. So, thank you.
Yeah, no, I agree. We see the old addresses, phone numbers, email addresses. So again, that any contact information that may be out into the public, that's what fraudsters are using to try to access benefits. And so what we're working with our fraud prevention efforts is to do exactly that, to look for, well, old addresses compared to new addresses, which address is the correct address. We have a lot of claims coming in from multiple addresses, pretending to be whole families filing, for example. So there is, it's that constant, you're fighting the next round, what routing number is on banking information, for example, is also very important. So we do recognize that,
I guess the only
members even of our own department have faced that as well, and that we're taking measures to prevent it.
the only other factor you might want to consider as well is voter databases. If the voter database doesn't match the person's mailing address, and that's a current voter database address, then it's probably fraud, right? There's a bunch of public information that we can all the voter databases are out there for the entire country. You just put the zip code in, and up it comes, and you can go search for all kinds of that information. So just a suggestion. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Palmer. Are there any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Okay. Hearing none, I believe. Thank you so much to the members of the administration and specifically from DLT for joining us today. We appreciate you bringing us through this. Before we do actually close, I did actually have one question on the TDI side. Taking a look at where we are today, and I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe TCI is funded out of the same fund, but a separate assessment for TCI that TDI is. When we had implemented that program, we had made it a 100% employee contribution into the program. We were one of the first states, one of the first movers to offer TCI coverage. Looking at other states that have adopted it, they've adopted an employee and employer share. As a follow-up, if you could, I'd love to know the department's thought process on if it makes sense for us to take a look and go back at that, both the benefit side of it, but also on the rate pay, whether there should be an employer-employee share to that.
I think for the department, we are operationalizing however the program is structured. So I think that if there is a need for more analysis work, we would be happy to do the research and to provide this committee any information that it would need to make that decision for us.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much. Okay. I think that concludes DLT this evening. Thank you so much. And Joe, I'll turn it back to you for the next section.
Sure. I'd like to introduce Director Tanner of the Department of Business Regulation, who will be followed up by Commissioner Teague from the Office of the Health Insurance Commission to talk about the DBR and OHIC budgets, as well as some related budget articles. And with that, I'm glad to pass it off to Director Liz Tanner.
Thank you, Joe. Joe, will you do the slides for me?
I certainly could if you bear with me and give me one moment.
Okay, it looked
You'd
like
like
they
to
came
begin.
up. I wasn't sure who put them up. Okay. While I have Joe pull that up, I'll just say good evening, Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity this evening. My name is Liz Tanner. I'm the Director of the Department of Business Regulation. I have with me here tonight Beth Dwyer, Deputy Director of Financial Services, Julieta Georgakis, Deputy Director of Fire and Building, and Brian Riggs, our CFO. I have a very brief presentation to highlight the items before you today. Joe, if you can't get it, I can get it.
Sure, Director Tanner, if you're able to put it up, I would appreciate that.
Okay. I think this is going to be it. This normally works for me. I'm not sure why it's not. Julieta or Beth, do you have the ability to pull it up quickly?
Director, let me try.
I'll try too, Liz.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not working. Beautiful. Apologies for the delay. Thank you, Julieta. Julieta, can you go to the second slide, please? Can you try to put it in slideshow so it's bigger? Thank you. Okay, sorry about that. On the first slide, you'll see that there's a need to adopt amendments to the NAIC RBC for Insurers Act. And so I recognize that's a lot of acronyms, but RBC is a method of evaluating the solvency of insurance companies. And the amendment makes a small change to the trend test for insurers. This amendment is crucial for the existing insurance companies in Rhode Island, and they support this change. Should we not pass this bill, Julieta, can you go to the next page? Should we not pass this bill in Rhode Island, we would jeopardize the accreditation of all of our insurance companies and may force them to relocate. So this part of the article is very important. There's a lot of detail there. It's not super easy to understand, but if you have any questions, please let us know. Juliet, on the next slide. On the next slide is a proposal to raise the registration fees to contractors for the first time in 14 years. The change would be an increase and would change it to every year instead of every other year. And this change allows the Contractors Registration and Licensing Board to both be fully staffed as well as resolving a noted problem of contractors not carrying their insurance every year, leaving homeowners with no recourse. So this would require a registration yearly, since we've converted from a paper registration to an electronic system. It's much easier to do so, and it will make it much easier for us to make sure that they do have their insurance on a yearly basis instead of every other year. This was a request and a big problem from the workers' compensation courts. Julieta, next slide. Is a proposal to raise the sales rep license from $75 to $100 per year, of which the last increase was 10 years ago. And you should know that over 90% of the license holders that would be affected by this increase are from out of state. Julieta, last one. And finally, there's a business-friendly change to help allow those that have different education and experience attain their engineering license. So this brings our requirements in line with what most other states do, takes care of an equity issue about education that we had in Rhode Island, and is supported by the Professional Engineers Board. And that's it from us. If there are any questions, please let us know.
Thank you so much, Director. Senator Palmer.
Thank you, Chairman. Director, thank you for being here. With regards to the Contractor Registration and Licensing Board, I assume the increased funds are not going towards a electronic system. We already have an electronic system, or we will have an electronic system. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we're going to have a 75% increase if we're going from $200 every 2 years to, I guess, a 50%, $300 every 2 years, a 50% increase. Do we need? I realize we haven't raised it, but it's the case of, I've always looked at the fees for different areas as paying for the effort for that particular function, as opposed to we can make money to go to the general fund. What necessitated, other than we haven't done it in 14 years, and I appreciate the going annually, that's a good thing, of not just keeping it at $100. Is there additional work that your office requires?
Well, part of that, and Joe, I'll let you finish from an overall budget standpoint, but part of it was the insurance piece, but another was that we were able to. You know, we could not have done that before because with over 12,000 registrations on every other year basis, but now that we've gone electronic, we ultimately need to continue to pay for the use of the system. But Joe, do you want to talk about the overall budget piece?
Sure. This is a restricted receipts funded activity that has struggled in recent years in terms of revenues being sufficient to meet expenditures. I know that there's been significant vacancy at the Contractors Registration Licensing Board to the extent that it impedes their ability to get their mission and essential work done. And even under those conditions where employees have had to step up and work 120% to get the job done, they have still come up short with revenue. So this is an example of increasing a fee that is necessary to cover the essential operations of the business unit, and also one where that fee will cover will be dedicated to the purpose for which it is paid, so it will stay within the unit.
So Joe,
this has been a problem that's been able to be avoided for the past couple of years, in that there had been a significant carry forward balance historically in this account that the unit's been drawing down, and also that some of the federal stimulus funds, the fact that some of these employees were temporarily reassigned to do other work, was helpful from a budget perspective, but this is the fee change that's necessary for the department to be able to continue its operations.
Joe, how much does the 200 bring in? What's the annual revenue that comes in?
I can get you exact figures on the annual revenue unless the department has it at their fingertips.
Okay, I guess.
I don't have exact figures, but it's just over $1 million roughly.
So this is going to bring in 1.5 million now then? With the 50% increase,
Sure,
right?
correct.
So on average, every state employee on average is about $100,000. So is there an increase in FTEs here?
There is none.
So what are we paying for then?
Right now, there is significant vacancy within this unit, so it would allow them to fill authorized FTEs. There have been FTEs that have been held vacant, but there is not we're not requesting an increase in the authorization in the number of FTEs.
So Joe, okay, so so are there 5 vacancies or 4 vacancies we're going to fill here? What I'm trying to understand is, I hear everything you're saying. At the end of the day, it all needs to tie out. I heard we're going to increase the fee, which instead of $1 million every year, brings in $1.5 million every year by increasing it by 50%, right? On that, roughly. If that's the case, that means another $500,000 will come into that restricted receipt. So if I think about the overall effort in that restricted receipt account, if we spend all that money every year, because you're saying we don't have enough, then that's about 14 to 15 people that are doing the work associated with this. Maybe Director, if we can follow up, or Joe, you can follow up with some more of the details, that'd be appreciated.
I can follow up with the details to show you that the revenue is proportional to the level of personnel needed in this group.
Okay, I look forward to.
We tried to propose something that was proportional with the amount of personnel costs needed.
Okay. No, I look forward to seeing that, seeing how many openings there are, seeing that we're going to hire 4 or 5 people, because that's what the money indicates. Otherwise, that means excess, and we don't need to go up that high. So, thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Senator.
Mr. Chairman, please.
Senator Chacon.
I have a question.
how long have these vacancies been vacant?
They've been rotating depending on the scenario of each one. The Contractor Registration Licensing Board has a very odd history. As you recall, they've only been with the Department of Business Regulation for several years. And so we've been in process. We're also struggling to fill some of the positions due to the educational requirements that are required for them. Julietta, do you want to speak to that at all?
Yes, am I on mute? The vacancies, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep. The vacancies are actually a combination of the lack of revenue to fund the positions, but at the same time, a lack of employees that have the certifications that are required per statute. And so we're in this odd situation where, again, like I said, we didn't have enough revenue to cover salaries. And no matter how many times, even when FTEs were approved to be filled, no matter how many times we posted, sometimes 4 or 5 times, we were unable to find people with the correct certifications. It's a very niche field. Not any contractor can be an inspector. You have to pass certain certifications that are required by law.
Just to follow up. These inspectors are the ones that go out to actual buildings and sites to see and lodge complaints and citations against owners?
Against contractors.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, and question was, how long have the positions been vacant? Prior to COVID?
It's rotating.
I'm going to say they go back to 2018, when you eliminated most of the staff?
No, mostly during COVID when there was a hiring freeze.
So you're saying, you're testifying right now that prior to COVID, you never let people go in that unit?
No, I'm not testifying to that we didn't let people go or that we didn't have vacancies. Most of the vacancies occurred during the pandemic.
Did your inspectors ever go out to Ocean State job lot?
That was before they came to the Department of Business Regulation.
You're sure?
It was.
Yes.
Is that your I'm gonna make it easy. Is that your testimony?
So I started at the Department of Business Regulation in November of 2017, and I believe that controversy was happening the months before I arrived there.
And the letters of termination or separation were not signed by you?
I'm not sure what you're referring to there.
Okay.
The letters of termination for job lot?
No, for the employees that went out to the job site. Because I know a little bit more than what's being said right now.
We don't.
We can have a conversation.
You don't? Okay. Maybe I'll do it a different way. Chairman Pearson, that's fine.
Okay. Thanks, Senator Chacon. Senator Felag?
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah, I have a question relative to this liability and property damage insurance and why we're going every year rather than biannual. And that was your testimony relative to the fact that they're supposed to show. Why don't you do spot checks on these individuals? What are they doing? Getting a liability insurance and then not renewing it?
That's exactly what we see quite often. And so this would now require them electronically to provide their license on a yearly basis so that we can affirm that they do have the proper insurance protocols.
So why not keep it biannual? Why are you going annual? Isn't that more work to do it that way?
So if it's biannual, what's happening when it was every 2 years is they would pay for 1 year and then they wouldn't pay for the second year. And then they've got another year that they wouldn't have to do insurance. And then they'd pay and they'd have to re-up their insurance. So the registration was every 2 years and they would only pay for insurance for 1. And I'm not saying this was a rampant, but this was something the workers' compensation courts brought to our attention.
Well, I've had some constituents that have had really bad experiences with contractors, but also with the licensing board when they went to file their claims because of the fact that these individuals didn't have liability insurance, and also no one seemed to be checking up on these individuals.
So we are hoping with these new inspectors to come on to actually be able to go out on the road more often, and we have done quite a bit of that, more than they've ever done before, to do spot checks. But again, with the insurance, it's in addition to checking on the insurance, we want to make sure they're registered. There are lots of unregistered contractors as well, so they don't have any insurance, they're not registered, they're just operating without anybody giving any kind of approvals, or them following any kind of education pieces to it. So by them having to renew on a yearly basis, we can check on all of these things.
So if a constituent has an issue where he or she is paying a contractor or the contractor is doing inadequate work, what's their recourse? Who are they supposed to contact beside me?
Well, you can send them our way, and every situation is different. It depends on lots of different things, whether they're registered or unregistered, whether they have insurance or not insurance, what the actual part of the claim is, and we analyze each one and then take appropriate actions from there.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Are there other questions or comments from members of the committee?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have one.
Senator Seveny?
If we could go back to the insurance slide. I kind of heard what you said, but most of it bounced off. What is this really doing?
Beth, do you want to explain it in English?
Yes, so I'll try. So we do audits of insurance companies, and we have a number of financial standards that we apply to make sure that they can pay claims, that they stay solvent and pay claims. So one of those things is called risk-based capital. It's a way to measure how much money the insurer has in light of how much insurance they're writing. The National Association of Insurance Commissioners sets the standards for that, and our standard is slightly out of whack with the NAIC standards. Our only life insurer, which is Amica Life Insurance, easily passes this test. So it's not, it's just a standard that's out of effect. It won't cause any insurer to have to do anything currently.
So there's some ratio between the amount of insurance you're writing and the amount of money you have in the bank to pay a claim.
Exactly. And it varies on the kind of insurance you write. So if you write life insurance, you need a different amount of money in the bank. If you write auto insurance, a different. And these are just calculations, ways that we can assess the risk of the insurance company and make sure they have enough money.
And so if nobody has a problem, why are we doing this just to be like the other states? Is that what this is about?
Yes. So in order for our insurers to write in other states, our laws have to have the proper financial. Yeah. So it's very important to the insurers that write in other states.
I got it. Okay, thanks. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Director, I have one just on Article 6, Section 3 related to the securities licensing. Do we know, I mean, I know that we haven't raised the fee in 10 years from 75 to 100. Do we have any benchmark on what other states charge for this?
Beth, can you provide that information, please?
Yes. So we have a benchmark from Connecticut and Massachusetts, who is what we usually go to. For this particular fee, Massachusetts is 75 and Connecticut is 125. So this proposal is kind of right down the middle.
Okay. Do we know how it looks in other states across the country? I'm just wondering what
I don't have, well, first of all, not every state licenses these people. And I don't have from across the country. I just have it from Mass and Connecticut, but I can get as much data I can try to collect that data if you like and submit it.
No, that would be great if you are able to get us any information. It'd just be good to have a good benchmark on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Are there other questions or comments, members of the committee? Okay. I do believe that concludes our testimony tonight on the Department of Business Regulation. Director and those from DBR, thank you for joining us this evening. We do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For members of the committee, we're going to now move to a series of bills. We're going to try to accommodate several senators and move through the agenda in the most efficient way that we can. I'm going to start off with a few bills from Senator Felag that I believe he is ready for. Senate Bill 156 by Senator Felag, enacting the taxation personal income tax. Also Senate Bill 157, also the same title, and Senate Bill 159 by Senator Felag. Senator, would you like to introduce those three pieces?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. All three of these bills are related to retirement income. For those of you who are new to the committee, a few years back, we implemented some legislation that would exempt, for instance, the Social Security tax if your income was under $100,000 as a married couple and $83,000 for a single person. This was back in 2015, and it escalated by the CPI. So currently, the marriage filing is probably about $108,000, and the single is probably around $87,000 that you exempt the Social Security if your total income is that amount and you're of the retirement age. And again, the retirement age kind of fluctuates. I'm giving you the Social Security just as a little background, because my three bills are addressing the pension aspect of it. The following year in 2016, we did the same thing with the pension income, but we just exempted the first $15,000. So for instance, now a single person would qualify if their income is below around $85,000, and a married filing joint individual would qualify if their income is below $106,000. So now there's two or three different criteria here that take place. One, obviously, is the income aspect of it, and two is your full retirement age. So for instance, there's a revolving scale of what your retirement age is. If you were born to a certain age, to say 1954, it may be 65 or 66 years old, and then it escalates based on your age. So you have to ensure that you're of that retirement age. So the first bill I implemented is that when we're talking about retirement, and we're talking about retirement income, it includes your private and government pensions, your annuities, your 401ks, your 403bs, your 457bs, your military retirement, your life insurance, and those profit sharing plans. But it does not include, and this is very important, it does not include your IRAs, your SEP IRAs, or your simple IRAs. And this is where a lot of people get confused when they go to their accountant and they find out that they don't qualify for the exemption because it's in that little bucket. And so what the first piece of legislation 156 does is to say, let's make it all retirement income. Let's not just pick and choose winners and losers here. Let's make it all those particular types of retirement income. The second bill, 157, is that where if you qualify, your first $15,000 of retirement income is eligible from Rhode Island tax. And what I want to do is to bump that up to $20,000. So instead of 15 to be 20. And then the third piece of legislation in this three-pronged approach here is the military income. We've often talked about how do we address military income? How do we end up saying to those individuals that have faithfully served us that we're going to give you some kind of relief? And so what I've done is to try to take it in small scales. In other words, rather than exempt all the income, currently military pay is only the first $15,000 as is eligible of any type of pension for those individuals that qualify under that parameters of one, the retirement age, and two, being the income level. Well, in this particular case, what I did was made a special branch and said, okay, if you're a military individual with a retirement, we'll exempt the first 25,000 for you, and it'll be based on an age of 60, and we do not have an income qualifier or restrictor as far as that's concerned. So that would indicate that we would want these individuals within our community who have faithfully served us, and it would put us on a path towards, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and all the other different states. So that's my testimony. I'll take any questions.
Thank you so much, Senator Felag. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Senator Acosta.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator Felag, for that explanation. I just had one follow-up. I'm not extremely well versed in personal income tax policy, but one of the shifts you mentioned was expanding this to cover all types of retirement sources of income. And my question is, would this include accounts that you may have invested in that were done pre-tax? So depending on how you save up for retirement, there are ways that your income can go pre-tax into those accounts. And the idea, and I think it's controversial, and I'm happy to discuss it here, about whether retired folks should be paying any taxes on income that they might have paid taxes on already when they made it, is problematic. And so I'd be happy to engage that. But that does leave open the question of whether we would now be giving them back money that has never been paid taxes on, if it comes from an account that was a pre-tax savings account. Is that
those are called the Roth type savings, and those are not included in here. They're not deriving. They're pre-tax, so you're already paying the tax on it. So there's no tax. It's just like a type of savings account that's already been there. That's why it's pre-tax. It's already been taxed.
I'm not sure that's true based on the language that you used in the first bill. So it says including but not limited to. And so it could include any account that counts as a retirement account.
Well, that wasn't the intent, and that can be corrected if that's your explanation of what you think. It's the intent. The intent obviously is not anything to do with Roth incomes. It's basically to include those SEP IRAs. Those are sole proprietor type individuals that don't have that opportunity to take advantage of. Whereas a person on a state pension or is a contributor, like we have that opportunity to 403Bs and those kind of things, have that. So it level the playing field for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any other questions or comments for Senator Felag? Okay. Hearing none, we do not have any witnesses signed up for a 156, 157, or a 159. Senator Felag
motion to hold.
Makes a motion to hold Senate Bill 156, 157, and 159.
Second.
By Senator Seveny. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Pearson.
Yes.
Senator DePalma.
Yes.
Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Paolino.
Yes.
Senator Acosta.
Yes.
Senator Cano.
Yes.
Senator Chacon.
Yes.
Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Seveny.
Yes.
Senator Sosnowski.
Yes.
10 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. We're going to go back to the top of our agenda. My understanding, Leader Algier, I believe, is with us. I'd like to bring forward Senate Bill number 99 by Senator Algier, an act related to taxation, business corporation tax. Leader Algier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if I could do both bills while I'm up?
Yes, we were going to do the first one and then move to the second one, if that's okay, Leader?
Sure. Yeah, and the first bill simply just reduces the corporate tax from $400 to $250 beginning January 1st, 2021, and abolishes the tax altogether in January 2022. I put this in for the past several years to help our struggling small businesses. While it might seem just a small amount of money to a small business that's struggling, $400 is a significant amount of money in their pockets. We tend to tax our small businesses, and we hit them with fees from every angle, and this is just one way of helping the small businesses. The second bill, if I may, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, Leader.
This bill would exclude the income up to $10,200 of unemployment compensation paid in the tax year 2020 for any individual or married couple with an adjusted gross income less than $150,000. It would take effect and become retroactive January 1st, 2020. This mirrors the federal IRS regulations for the taxes on unemployment benefits. And I'm sure you all have heard from your constituents. I have. We've heard from many of our constituents who are frustrated and confused about the Rhode Island not following the federal tax guidance. And, the state now, with our small businesses, are struggling. Businesses, the employees of these businesses are struggling, and many people in Rhode Island, it's up to 108,000 people received unemployment compensation due to the COVID virus. Many people believe that the taxation, we would follow, the guidance of the IRS and not tax the first $10,200. They're confused and they're badly impacted. They were badly impacted during COVID, and they're badly impacted in 2021. It may, again, the amount of money that we're dealing with is negligible considering the amount of money we're going to be receiving from stimulus, over $1 billion for it. And this will help the struggling taxpayers. And I think this is something we really need to look at very soon, prior to the May 15th deadline. We've followed the federal guidelines and federal deadlines throughout COVID, and this is the one area we did not. Many states, I believe there were over 30 states who were following the IRS guidance on unemployment taxation. So I urge my colleagues to look at this very carefully. It's only for the 2020 tax year. It does have a fiscal impact. However, I think the money coming in, stimulus money, over $1.5 billion, certainly we can help beat that revenue shortfall, which is, I think, minimal, considering the impact it's having on our struggling working class people in the state of Rhode Island.
Thank you so much, Leader. Are there any questions or comments for Leader Algier? Senator Paolino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Leader, just want to thank you for putting in this legislation. If we look at the federal recommendations, we'll see that they recommend that we tax exempt the first 10,000. And if we look at Massachusetts and Connecticut, they are also doing the same thing. So I think we should follow with our neighboring states. And thanks again for putting in this legislation. Oops.
Are there any other questions or comments for Leader Algier on either Senate Bill number 99 or Senate Bill number 764? Okay, hearing none. Leader, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. We do not have any witnesses signed up on Senate Bill number 99.
Motion to hold.
Senator Palmer makes a motion to hold, second by Senator Seveny. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Pearson.
Yes.
Senator DePalma.
Yes.
Senator Felag. Senator Felag. Senator Paolino.
Yes.
Senator Acosta.
Yes.
Senator Cano.
Yes.
Senator Chacon. Senator Chacon. Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Seveny.
Yes.
Senator Sosnowski.
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Senator Chacon?
Oh, I had mute, so yes.
Senator Chacon would like to be recorded in the affirmative. So ordered. Thank you, Senator Chacon. On Senate Bill 764, we did have 3 witnesses signed up to testify. The first witness signed up to testify that will be testifying is Kathy Malucci, in support, representing herself.
I'll transfer you in now, okay? Yeah, the chairman will greet you when you're, once you're transferred in. He'll ask you to speak, okay? Great, here it comes, okay?
Kathy, welcome to Senate Finance.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Please proceed.
So I'm a CPA. I'm not personally affected by this, but a lot of my clients are, and it basically would save them from either $0 to a few $100s, and I think that could help pay rent for 1 month or utilities, or so I think that you guys should pass to do what federal did and exclude the 10-2.
Thank you so much, Kathy, for your testimony. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee for Kathy? Okay. Hearing none, Kathy, thank you so much.
Okay, will it be,
Thank you.
will you do it tonight?
It's up to the committee. It'll be live TV coming to you soon.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Bye.
Next testify is going to be Deborah Krieg, also representing herself, signed up in support. Deborah, welcome to Senate Finance.
Hi, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Please proceed.
Okay, back in March of 2020, when I lost not 1 but 2 jobs due to coronavirus, I had signed up for unemployment, and I didn't think twice about having taxes taken out because we were told a week, 2 weeks. You know, nobody knew that it was going to be a year later and we're still in this situation. Nobody could have predicted that. So this year when I did my taxes, and I did them prior to the president signing the law into action, and when I did my taxes, I was shell-shocked. It turned out that I owed the state of Rhode Island $816. And believe me when I tell you, I have lost sleep over this. I have tried every which way to find out how I'm going to come up with money to pay this. It has been a torture for me. Now, granted, I was given an extra month, but that really didn't help. So now, in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to owe the state of Rhode Island $816, or I'm going to be hit with fines and interest and penalties and all that. And if I can't come up with $816, how am I going to come up with all that extra? It can't happen. So what I've done is I haven't paid my rent for this month yet. And I'm going to have to make a hard decision. Do I pay my rent or do I pay the state of Rhode Island? And I shouldn't have to be put in that position. The president put that bill out there to help us. There's absolutely no reason why the state of Rhode Island can't help us. Right from the beginning, Governor Raimondo and now Governor McKee have said all along they will do everything they can to help Rhode Islanders. And now it's your turn. We need to get this bill passed. I am not the only one that's in this situation. So hundreds of thousands of people are. And we need help. So please, I beg of you, pass this bill. And I thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you so much, Deborah, for your testimony. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Senator De La Cruz.
I just wanted to thank Deb for calling in. She's one of my constituents. She called and emailed me several times And I just wanted to let her know, Deb, your voice matters and your pain is felt by those listening to you in this committee. Thank you for calling.
Thank you, Jessica.
Are there any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none. Deborah, again, I just want to echo the same thoughts as Senator De La Cruz, and thank you for taking some time out of your afternoon, evening to join us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, you too. Next testify is going to be Jordan Goyette, also testifying in support. Jordan, welcome to Senate Finance.
Hello, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'd like to voice my strong support for S764 and hope you strongly consider exempting the first 10,000, I think it's 10,200 of unemployment benefits for people who really overnight found out that they would have to go and sign up for unemployment because they just suddenly found themselves out of work. It happened to hundreds of thousands of people here, again, basically overnight. I frankly think it's wrong that we tax on the benefits of unemployed people at all. I know during a recent hearing, the idea of taxing PPP loans was met with opposition in the form of it was a lifeline for these businesses. And I think if the unemployment benefits were a lifeline for people during this pandemic, I don't know what is a lifeline, what a lifeline is. And so that's why I think it's wrong at all. This is a great step forward to helping those people out, like you just heard. And I'm really glad to see the bipartisan cooperation on it. Of course, it's rare these days, but that's great. And I feel it's really important to a lot of people, especially when the unemployment system obviously understandably overwhelmed. People had a hard time signing up at first. A lot of people, I know it happened to my cousin, she had a hard time signing up at first and then qualified for it. Waited a long time to get the benefits in. So that's just more reason I think this is really important, and I hope you strongly consider it. So thank you, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Jordan, thank you so much for your testimony. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee for Jordan? Hearing none. Jordan, thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
That does conclude our testimony on Senate Bill 764. And I certainly do understand the witnesses that have testified on this. Again, I want to thank Leader Algier for putting this in. I know the President's co-sponsored and others, and so it is definitely something that we'll be looking at throughout the budget process as we work to conclude that over the next several weeks into June here.
Motion to hold.
Senator Palmer makes a motion to hold, second by Senator Seveny. Clerk, please call the roll.
Chairman Pearson.
Yes.
Senator DePalma.
Yes.
Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Paolino.
Yes.
Senator Acosta.
Yes.
Senator Cano.
Yes.
Senator Chacon.
Yes.
Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Seveny.
Yes.
Senator Sosnowski.
Yes.
Minority Whip De La Cruz.
Yes.
11 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And Senator De La Cruz, we had previously made votes on motions to hold Senate Bill 99, 156, 157, and 159. Do you want to be recorded on those?
Yes, please. Thank you.
So ordered.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to be recorded also in those bills as well. This is Dennis Algier.
So ordered, Leader. Thank you. That does move us to a bit of a different part of our agenda. We will now take up Senate Bill 295 by myself. This is an act related to state affairs and government, the Rhode Island Municipal Infrastructure Grant Program. We do have a sub A. Senator Palmer makes a motion to indefinitely postpone Senate Bill 295 and bring before us Senate Bill 295 sub A. Second by Senator Seveny. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Pearson.
Yes.
Senator DePalma.
Yes.
Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Paolino.
Yes.
Senator Acosta.
Yes.
Senator Cano.
Yes.
Senator Chacon.
Yes.
Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Seveny.
Yes.
Senator Sosnowski.
Yes.
Senator Dela Cruz.
Yes.
Leader Algier.
Yes.
12 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. This bill, Senate 295, is the Municipal Infrastructure Grant Program. It is a bill that I have sponsored the last 2 years, but prior to that, we actually passed a bill that established the grant program into law, modeled after a successful program that folks may have heard about from Governor Baker and in Massachusetts, a program in Massachusetts called MassWorks. Essentially, this would create a competitive process for municipalities to seek grant funding to make public investments in public infrastructure like roads, sewer lines, other elements. Senator Cohn, you're not on mute. There you go. Would allow them to receive competitive grants for things like roads, water lines, et cetera, that would be the catalyst that will allow a project to hurdle at an investment rate, to build new housing, build commercial, really serve as an economic development tool for cities and towns all across Rhode Island. The Sub-A moves the authority from DOA and the Planning Council today to the Municipal Infrastructure, or to the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank, which is likely a more appropriate home for a program like this, and it also allows us to be able to capitalize the fund with state dollars as we may need to. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Okay. We do have several individuals signed up to testify on this. The first individual to testify is going to be Jeffrey Deal with the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank in support. Okay. Okay. Jeff is not going to be able to testify in person, but he did submit written testimony in support. We also will next move to Jordan Goyette, also representing himself in support of the legislation. If the committee could just stand at ease for a moment. Jordan, welcome to Senate Finance. Welcome back, I should say.
Thank you again. I'd really like to commend the chairman for introducing this bill. I'm encouraged to see the strong support for it from the committee already upon its introduction. And I think during the time of economic recession that we're in, that we're currently trying to climb our way out of, this bill is exactly the kind of policy that we should be exploring, and to help local communities come out of the crisis stronger than before. It's, I think, establishing this program and then specifically barring state appropriations from going to it was completely misguided, especially during the last election cycle. I spent a lot of time walking a lot of neighborhoods, back on people's stores, canvassing neighborhoods, and in Woonsocket, Warwick, Cranston, down to North Kingstown and Edster. And obviously, the local infrastructure of people's neighborhoods was one of their top concerns. It usually is here, the conditions of the roads, the conditions of their parks, the lack of affordable housing. And I think this mirrors really during the Great Depression in the 1930s, the Works Progress Administration was created under the umbrella of the New Deal by President Roosevelt, and that put millions of people back to work rebuilding and building new infrastructure across the country. And, I think that this can be used very effectively to advance economic development, provide jobs for your constituents that are really lacking right now, Again, creating new affordable housing, upgrading and repairing drinking water and sewage transfer systems, and more telecommunication projects as well. Of course, you're hearing bills later tonight that explore new revenue sources by changing tax rates and such. And it's been mentioned before, we're set to receive a lot of funding from the federal government, and this is exactly the kind of thing that funding should be used for. And so I think this is a great bill, and I think you should introduce it. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Jordan, for your testimony. I certainly appreciate it as a bill sponsor, and I know the committee does. Are there any questions or comments for Jordan from members of the committee? Hearing none. Jordan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next testify is going to be John Marcantonio from the Rhode Island Builders Association in support. John, welcome to Senate Finance.
Oh, hello. Thank you.
Please proceed.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to speak on this legislation. The infrastructure grant program, oddly, came from a coalition, a very unique coalition of the building community, the planning community, the League of Cities and Towns, and the environmental community, all coming together to solve the development and housing problem. It was something we've all known, that towns have a difficult time getting past the infrastructure barriers. And we found examples. So it came to us through the planning community where Mass works just over the border. Perfect example of how all this can come together to support programs and develop communities according to their plans. It's been very effective. We thank you for your work and your efforts here to make this program successful, to actually give it some legs in Rhode Island. And we look forward, obviously, to supporting it, supporting your efforts. And we thank you in the committee for the opportunity to speak in favor of the bill.
Thank you so much, John, for your testimony. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none, John, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. That does conclude our testimony on Senate Bill 295. Senator DePalma makes a motion to hold, a second by Senator Murray. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Pearson.
Yes.
Senator DePalma.
Yes.
Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Paolino.
Yes.
Senator Acosta.
Yes.
Senator Gagne.
Yes.
Senator Chacon.
Yes.
Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Seveny.
Yes.
Senator Sosnowski.
Yes.
Senator Dela Cruz.
Yes.
Leader Algier.
Yes.
12 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. We will now go to Senate Bill 221 by Senator Felag, an act related to taxation, personal income tax. Senator Felag. Senator Felag.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This piece of legislation would hope to compensate those individuals that work, especially in the low-paying jobs. Know that on the federal level, individuals qualify for the federal income tax credit, and Rhode Island offers a credit of 15% of that amount. And so what I'd like to do is to increase that amount to 18% of the federal tax earned credit. And that's a piece of legislation.
Thank you very much, Senator Felag. Are there questions or comments from members of the committee? Okay, hearing none. We do have three witnesses signed up to testify on this legislation. The first is Rachel Flum with the Economic Progress Institute in support. Rachel, welcome to Senate Finance.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. This is Rachel Flum. I'm the Senior Policy Analyst at the Economic Progress Institute. Oh, are you hearing that?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. And I'm here today to support Senator Felag's proposal to increase the Rhode Island Earned Income Tax Credit. So thank you to Senator Felag for being a real champion on this year after year. As you may remember, this committee has pushed to increase
the state earned income tax credit, and we are now at 15% of the federal credit, which was raised 7 years ago, and is still lagging significantly behind our neighboring states. Massachusetts is at 30% of the federal credit, and Connecticut's at 23%, and Vermont is at a whole 36%. Now, this is really important because we know that folks in the ocean states who are working hard and have children still are struggling to meet their housing, heat, food, and healthcare needs. And certainly the coronavirus pandemic has made the situation worse. Our Rhode Island Standard of Need shows that a two-parent family who are both earning the current minimum wage of $11.50 earn $47,800 a year, which is $25,000 less than a two-parent what a two-parent family needs in order to make their ends meet. The federal earned income tax credit helps close that gap, and the state EITC provides a modest but crucial support on top of that. We know that the EITC is good for local businesses and our state's economy. Folks who get the EITC spend it in their local businesses, and it's a huge return on investment. So it's really just a common sense tax credit. If you look on the second page of my written testimony, you'll see a chart that I'm going to refer to later tonight also. But it looks at, if you look at all the taxes that Rhode Islanders pay, including income, property, and sales and excise taxes, that the folks at the lowest end of the income bracket actually end up paying more of their income in taxes than the top 1% of workers. So using the EITC to help balance that upside-down tax code is just good common sense and is not a very expensive way for the state to support these families. The Earned Income Tax Credit also addresses racial inequities that far too often our Black and brown Rhode Islanders earn less than white Rhode Islanders. And if you look at just the Latino population in Rhode Island, they are about nearly 1/3 of Latinos in Rhode Island are eligible for the EITC, and so they are overrepresented than they are in the overall workforce. So those are just some of the reasons that we think the EITC is an important way of supporting workers, and I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none, Rachel, thanks again for your testimony this evening.
Thank you.
Next testify is going to be Jordan Goyette, representing himself in support. Jordan, welcome back to Senate Finance, and I think you may receive an award for the most frequent guest this evening. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I hope you'll strongly support S221 and thank Senator Fielad for introducing this upgrade to the Earned Income Tax Credit. And as someone who's usually a critic of a lot of the tax incentive schemes this Rhode Island has, this is one that's actually good for hardworking, often low-income people that actually rewards them for working hard. I think the state needs to learn from the last recession where we went on a very austerity path of our economic policy. We slashed the Earned Income Tax Credit, among many other things. And so I think this is definitely something we should do. Again, you're exploring other revenue sources from other bills tonight. And this is something that those new revenue sources can help pay for and give people, especially during the pandemic, the people have been keeping the economy going. This is those are who this would benefit the most. And my only concern with it, as I finish to go February, there are a couple of competing proposals in the House, one that raises it to 20%, one that raises it to 50% over the next 2 years. And I'll just strongly consider this. This is a good step forward. So thank you. I be happy to take any questions again.
Jordan, thank you so much for your testimony. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next to testify is David Belize in support. David, welcome to Senate Finance.
Thank you very much, Chairperson and committee members. I apologize for the noise. I'm at T-ball practice. My name is David Valise. I'm the director and lead organizer for the Rhode Island Interfaith Coalition to Reduce Poverty, and we're here tonight to support strongly Senate Bill 221, which would increase the Rhode Island Earned Income Tax Credit. We believe that EITC is an effective and necessary strategy to reduce poverty and near-poverty conditions, especially for children. In Rhode Island, almost 1 in 5 children live in poverty. The EITC has a targeted effect on families with children. As families struggle to make ends meet, there is a meaningful impact in every percentage point. To put it in concrete terms, that percentage point buys a couple more boxes of diapers, helps stocks up on groceries for a good part of an extra week, or replaces a tire on a struggling car. This is especially critical for working families of color, with a median income for Black families being around $42,000 and Latino families being $36,000, households well below white households in Rhode Island, which is about $64,000. An increase in state EITC would greatly help more families of color afford basic, decent housing in safe neighborhoods, nutritious food, reliable transportation, and quality childcare, as well as educational opportunities. In addition, an increase in Rhode Island EITC would strengthen the economic fabric of our state as a whole. Studies have shown that families who receive these funds put them back into our local economy almost immediately. From paying bills to purchasing household items, putting money towards education or small businesses, these funds actually turn into an investment for our state economy. Thank you to Senator Fedlak for introducing this bill, and thank you for your time tonight and for hearing my testimony.
Thank you so much, David, for your testimony. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Okay, hearing none. Thank you again, David.
Thank you.
That does conclude our testimony on Senate Bill 221.
Motion to hold.
Senator DePalma makes a motion to hold, second by Senator Seveny. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Pearson.
Yes.
Senator DePalma.
Yes.
Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Paolino.
Yes.
Senator Acosta.
Yes.
Senator Cano.
Yes.
Senator Chacon.
Yes.
Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Seveny.
Yes.
Senator Sosnowski.
Yes.
Senator Dela Cruz.
Yes.
Leader Algier. Leader Algier. 11 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next, we're going to move to Senate Bill 707 by Senator Burke, an act relating to taxation, Perceptors Tax Credit Act. Senator Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. This act would allow a tax credit of $500,000 for any nurse practitioner or physician who provide on-site clinical education as a preceptor. The nurse practitioner grad students enrolled at URI College. Every year, URI graduates approximately 30 to 40 nurse practitioners. The major challenge for both programs is securing qualified nurse practitioners who provide supervised clinical training on a one-to-one basis for nurse practitioner students. Unlike medical MBA students, preceptors of NP students are not competent up to 400 hours of supervision annually. Approximately 200 preceptors are needed per year. This bill would help secure more NPs. Although, after reading the letter from the Department of Taxation, I understand that this bill needs some housekeeping and more. I'm happy to sit down with the appropriate parties now and iron out these issues. Any questions?
Are there any questions or comments for Senator Burke? Okay. Hearing none. Thank you so much, Senator. We do have one individual signed up to testify. It is Dr. Denise Copa with the Nurse Practitioner Alliance of Rhode Island in support. Dr. Copa, welcome to Senate Finance.
Thank you very much. Senator Burke, it seems like Senator Burke is still speaking.
Nope. Please proceed, Doctor.
Okay.
Questions or comments for Senator Burke?
I hear two things going on.
Yeah, you need to mute the audio behind you. It's a delay on the TV.
We do have one individual signed up to testify.
testify is Dr. Denise Copa, was a nurse practitioner allowed in Rhode Island.
Good evening, Chairman Pearson and members of the Senate Finance Committee. My name is Denise Coppa, and I direct... Oh, thank you very much. Senator Burke, it seems like... Senator
Doctor,
Burke
you need to
still,
mute your TV or your computer or whatever else is in the background.
Yes, of course. Okay, so I'm in another room now, so we shouldn't be able to hear the TV. Okay, so thank you for allowing me to testify on this bill that will incentivize clinical preceptors to precept and supervise graduate nurse practitioner students at various clinical agencies in Rhode Island. There are 30 to 40 nurse practitioner graduate students per year at the University of Rhode Island and Rhode Island College. So we're requesting that the 100 preceptors, my statement was incorrect, it's 100 preceptors per year, will be allowed to have a reduction of $500 in their Rhode Island income tax if they're willing to participate by precepting nurse practitioner students for 3 semesters, which amounts to about 400 hours. And in support of this, I wanted to mention that the total general tax revenue from nurse practitioners, physicians, and physicians' assistants in Rhode Island, it has been estimated to be about $50,600,000, which is more than 50% of the total tax revenue. And the way that breaks down is nurse practitioners are about 1,715, have an average salary estimated at $100,000 a year with a tax rate of 4.75%. They end up contributing $8.1 million. Physicians have over 2,000. They contribute about $37.54 million, and physicians' assistants about $4.9 million. So we are requesting $50,000 up to $50,000 a year, the total cost of this bill. Especially with COVID, I've taught at the University of Rhode Island and directed the nurse practitioner program there for over 30 years. And in this last year with COVID, we've had many students that have ended up with unused financial aid because clinical agencies wouldn't allow them to participate. Many of the clinical agencies went to telehealth, so they weren't on site. So we've had a huge impact on transforming the primary health care workforce in the state of Rhode Island and nationally for that matter. So we respectfully request that the committee consider this, and we believe that the revenue generated by the economic output of the groups involved more than covers the expense of the bill. Thank you, and I can answer any questions if people have them.
Thank you so much, Dr. Copa. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none, Doctor, thank you so much for testifying this evening.
Thank you for hearing me.
That does conclude our testimony on Senate Bill 707.
Motion to hold.
Senator DePalma makes a motion to hold, second by Senator Murray. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Pearson.
Yes.
Senator DePalma.
Yes.
Senator Feeley.
Yes.
Senator Paolino.
Yes.
Senator Acosta.
Yes.
Senator Cano.
Yes.
Senator Chacon.
Yes.
Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Savini.
Yes.
Senator Sosnowski.
Yes.
Senator Dela Cruz.
Yes.
Leader Algier.
Yes.
12 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And thank you, Senator Burke, for joining us. We appreciate it. Next, we're going to take up Senate Bill 358 by Senator Chacon, an act relating to taxation, personal income tax. Senator Chacon.
Mr. Chairman, I believe there's a sub A.
I don't think we have. Okay. Senator, we do have it. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get it posted in the time period beforehand. Happy to bring it back as soon as we can repost and bring it up if you'd like.
Yeah, just with that, I make a motion to hold until we repost.
Certainly. Senator Chacon makes a motion to hold, second by Senator DePalma. Clerk, please call the roll.
Chairman Pearson.
Yes.
Senator DePalma.
Yes?
Senator Felag.
Yes.
Senator Paolino.
Yes.
Senator Acosta.
Yes.
Senator Cano.
Yes.
Senator Chacon.
Yes.
Senator Murray.
Yes.
Senator Seveny.
Yes.
Senator Sosnowski.
Yes.
Senator Dela Cruz.
Yes.
Leader Alger.
Yes.
12 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Okay, we're now going to move to the personal income tax rate section of our agenda this evening. We're going to lead off with Senate Bill number 326 by Senator Murray, enact related taxation, personal income tax. Before we begin, I do just, we're going to hear 3 income tax bills. We'll hear Senator Murray's income tax bill, Senator Mack's, and then Senator Bell's. The witness lists are not identical, but there are about 4 I think witnesses that are signed up on all of the bills. So if you would like, when you want to testify on Senator Murray's bill, if you'd like to leave your testimony for the other pieces of legislation on the same topic, please indicate to the committee at the time. And I'll just ask folks to, we do have a significant number of witnesses signed up, so I'll just ask folks to please try not to be repetitive and try to stay within about 3 minutes or so per person so we can get to everyone on this legislation and also the sugary tax legislation by Senator Lawson a little bit later on in our agenda. So with that, I'd like to bring forward Senate Bill 326 by Senator Murray. Senator Murray.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for considering Senate Bill 326. So this legislation was introduced because we have a tax system that heavily favors the wealthiest over the working class. Wealth inequity is a problem that is only getting worse. The top 1% own 40% of all wealth. The top 20% own 90% of all wealth, while the bottom 60% own just 2% of all wealth. The wealthiest Rhode Islanders have seen 3 massive tax cuts in the last 2 decades. The Bush federal tax cuts in the early 2000s, a tax cut under Kachiri in 2010, and most recently federal tax cuts under Trump in 2017. This cut alone saved the average 1%er $35,000 a year. So the result of these upside down policies is then when you factor in income, property tax, and sales tax, the wealthiest Rhode Islanders pay a much smaller percentage of their income in taxes than those who make less money. The top 1% pay about 8% of their total income, while the lowest 20%, and those that make under $21,700 a year, pay a whopping 14% of their total income in total taxes. So this legislation was designed to address this inequality and will ensure that the top 1% pay a closer overall percentage in taxes to what the middle class pay, from about 8% to about 9.4%. It's important to note that 99% of all filers will not be affected by this legislation. So, for example, if you make $500,000 a year, $500,000 a year, only the $25,000 above that $75,000 will be taxed at the higher rate. And that equates to only about $750 in additional taxes for someone who's making $500,000 a year. And we can use these new additional funds to invest in public education, job training, affordable housing, parks, beaches, and other community investments, and a lot of other things that make Rhode Island an attractive place to live and to do business. Speaking of business, this legislation is actually good for small business. It puts more money in the pockets of the working Rhode Islander, who in turn invests it into the local economy, which spurs job creation. And that is so much more valuable to our local economy than having this money sitting in the bank accounts of the top 1%. The amount of small business owners who would pay more in taxes under this proposal is very small, since the median income for self-employed Rhode Islanders, according to the SBA Small Business Profile for Rhode Island in 2020, is just under $54,000. So 93 to 96% of small business owners would not have enough taxable income to be affected by this proposal. Although the coronavirus pandemic has proven devastating for many Rhode Islanders, not all Rhode Islanders have suffered equally. With the rises of the stock market, and some have not suffered at all financially. According to IRS data, over 60% of capital gains income goes to the top 1% of Rhode Islanders, and the federal code taxes those profits at a lower rate than it taxes wage income. However, it is important to note that this legislation is not a response to the pandemic. It is an urgent investment in our future and our state's sustained recovery. The federal government money that we're going to receive is a one-time allocation of funds. So that money might help to fill budget holes for a year, but even after the pandemic ends, the same issues of inequity will not only still exist, but will have been worsened by the pandemic and will continue to worsen without action. So there is widespread support for this proposal, including a huge coalition called Raising Rhode Island. It includes a lot of different partners, AFL-CIO, the RIFT, SEIU, NERI, local carpenters, DARE, the local 400 IFTPE, Coalition of Labor Union Women in Rhode Island, Center for Youth and Community Leadership, the Interfaith Coalition, the Latino Policy Institute, Planned Parenthood, Protect Our Healthcare, Providence Central Labor Council, Rhode Island Association for Infant Mental Health, Rhode Island Coalition Against Domestic Violence, Rhode Island Coalition for Children and Families, Rhode Island Coalition for the Homeless, Rhode Island National Organization for Women, Right from the Start Foundation, Unite Here Local 26, URI, Association of University Professors, Women's Fund of Rhode Island, and the Working Families Party. And finally, a recent poll has shown that a majority of Rhode Islanders support this proposal. Now is the time to invest in a sustained recovery for our state.
Thank you so much, Senator Murray, for your introduction and for your advocacy on this issue. Are there questions or comments from members of the committee? Senator Cano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say thank you to Senator Murray for your leadership on this legislation. As you have stated so well, I think this is about fairness and addressing inequalities in our state. And I do agree. I think that we need to make sure that we do have a tax system that is equitable for all, but also with that revenue that we will get in times such as these after the pandemic, we are able to invest more public education in affordable housing and programs that all Rhode Islanders could benefit. And I was glad that you mentioned that a lot of the small businesses would actually benefit from these proposal under your leadership. So I just want to say thank you so much. And I really appreciate also all the advocacy and the organizations that are supportive of this great legislation. Let's just make it happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Cano. Are there any other comments or questions from members of the committee? Okay, hearing none. We do have several individuals signed up to testify on Senator Murray's legislation. The first is Justine Olivia with the Rhode Island Public Expenditure Council in opposition. Yeah, I'm going to send them in. Justine, welcome to Senate Finance. And before you begin, if you'd like to testify on both Senate Bill 326, 362, and 367, I see you're signed up on all three. If you'd like to address them all at once, certainly happy to have you do so.
No, I would, thank you. Good evening, Chairman Pearson, members of the committee. My name is Justine Oliva, and I'm the Manager of Research at the Rhode Island Public Expenditure Council. RIPEC's President and CEO Michael DBA submitted written testimony outlining our opposition to Senate Bills 326, 362, and 367, so I'll be brief. Our primary concern is that these bills would negatively impact Rhode Island's economy at a time when it is in a particularly precarious position. Due to the pandemic, many Rhode Island businesses were forced to close over the last year, and many are still working towards recovery. According to economic forecasting testimony heard last week in the Revenue Estimating Conference, the state won't see a return to pre-COVID employment levels until fiscal year 2024. Most Rhode Island businesses and nearly all small businesses are organized as pass-through entities and report their profits through personal income tax. Moreover, most higher income earners in the state report business income through this channel. These business profits are often reinvested through new ventures and the expansion of existing businesses. The proposed legislation may also deter new businesses from moving to Rhode Island and investors from investing in the state. Prior to reform in 2011, Rhode Island's top income tax rate of 9.9% was among the highest in the country, and the state ranked 47th in terms of its overall business tax climate, according to the Tax Foundation. Due to income tax reform and other policy changes, Rhode Island has climbed in the Tax Foundation ranking to 37th. However, we're still in the bottom third of states, and our current income tax rate is already 20% higher than that of Massachusetts. Rhode Island is a very small state, and with the rise of remote work, both businesses and individuals have greater mobility than ever before. Finally, we'd like to note that Rhode Island's personal income tax is already among the most progressive in the nation, and that higher earners already have an outsized role in terms of total collection. According to a 2018 report from DOR, nearly half of the state's personal income tax revenues come from the 4.5% of resident taxpayers with personal income above $200,000. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify tonight.
Justine, thank you very much. Any questions from the committee for Justine? Justine, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justine. Next, we have Leanne. Hang on a second. Leanne?
Hi, yes, it's Leanne from Rhode Island Kids Count.
Hi, Leanne. Welcome to Senate Finance. Over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm calling to testify in support of Senator Murray's Bill 326, which is the Revenue for Rhode Island bill. This bill is really important because it would make the tax structure more equitable, and it would also bring in $128 million per year in new state revenue, which we desperately need to adequately fund essential services for our youngest children and their families. So I have written testimony that I submitted, so I'll just hit on a few highlights. There are three things I highlight in my written testimony. One is that we really need to improve access to high-quality, affordable child care. We needed to do this before the pandemic, and we certainly need to do it now. I have a chart in my testimony that shows that we currently allocate $47 million less in state general revenue to child care in 2021 than we did in 2005. That's over an 80% drop in state funding for child care, which is really affecting the quality of services that are available to families, low-income and middle-income kids. If we had been able to sustain our state funding over all this period, all of the new federal funding could have really gone to increase wages for staff in the child care programs and expand the subsidy to serve even more middle and moderate income families who really struggle to afford child care. The second thing I highlight is the community-based doula services, which I know the Senate is very supportive of. These services cost money, and if we had more state funding in there, we could pull in more federal funding for the match. And the third is our early intervention and family home visiting system, which serves very vulnerable families with infants and toddlers. EI is a service for infants and toddlers who have delays and disabilities. And these programs, I just wrote a policy brief on it. They have not received a rate increase in 18 years. In fact, they received a cut in 2009. So the wages are really inadequate to retain staff that are effective in helping these families, and it's causing the babies to not be able to make as much progress as they could have if we had a strong funded system. So with that, I'll say thank you very much for hearing my testimony, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Leanne, thank you very much. Any questions from Leanne? Or for Leanne, rather. Leanne, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Melina? Melina? Melina?
Yes, sir.
Hi, we have Melina Lodge. Welcome to the Senate Finance Committee. Over to you, Melina.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, and thank you for the opportunity to testify this evening in favor of Senate Bill 326. My name is Melina Lodge. I am the Executive Director of the Housing Network of Rhode Island. Our organization represents 17 nonprofit affordable housing developers and community development corporations who serve low-income Rhode Islanders from Westerly to Woonsocket. Collectively, our membership has developed over 15,000 long-term, deed-restricted affordable homes and is responsible for nearly 70% of the production and preservation activity generated by the 2006, 12, and 2016 housing bond. This session, we've seen an increase in the discussions around housing and the need for increased investment in it by the state rise as a top priority in the Senate, in the House, and in the governor's office. And as a housing advocate who's been asking for a lot of these things year after year, let me assure you I'm thrilled at that prospect. But without sustainable additional revenue sources, I'm concerned that there is no realistic path forward to achieve or actualize those goals, at least not without having to take away funds from another important investment. For too long, our state budget discussions have sounded like housing or education or workforce development or environmental resources or infrastructure or transportation or. Senate Bill 326 would allow you the opportunity to shift the narrative from having to pick and choose between things, all equally valuable, and allow you to replace the or with an and allow us to invest in multiple things at once, housing and education, workforce development and infrastructure. For these reasons, we support Senate Bill 326, and I encourage you to as well. Happy to answer any questions.
Melina, thank you very much. My microphone wasn't on. Thank you very much, Melina. Any questions from the committee for Melina? Thank you again, Melina. Next, we have Carl Davis. Stand by. Carl?
Yes.
Carl, welcome to the Senate Finance Committee. Over to you.
Great. Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Carl Davis with the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy, or ITEP. We are a national tax policy research organization, and in our view, this bill really capitalizes on one of the greatest advantages of an income tax, which is that you can fine-tune it based on taxpayers' ability to pay. I think it's particularly sensible when you view it against the backdrop of Rhode Island's broader tax code, which actually tends to charge the highest tax rates to the families with the lowest incomes. So when you factor in sales, excise, property tax, income tax, we estimate low-income families are paying about 12% of their income in tax compared to about 8% for families at the top. And this proposal isn't enough on its own to correct that imbalance, but it's sure a step in the right direction. And if you pair it with something like an expanded earned income tax credit, as I know is being considered by this committee, that improvement in tax equity could be even more powerful. I'd really like to emphasize that there is no trade-off here between tax equity and economic growth. The academic literature doesn't show any kind of convincing link between higher top tax rates and lower economic growth. And frankly, the same goes for claims of millionaire migration in response to higher taxes. I mean, of course, we've seen the anecdotes to support that kind of migration story, but those examples are so exceedingly rare that they don't even show up in the data. The families that would be paying this tax can clearly afford to live in Rhode Island regardless of the top income tax rate that you choose to levy. I'd also like to just finally one point, Rhode Island is certainly not the only state talking about this. New York just enacted top rate increases a matter of weeks ago. New Jersey did so before that. If you go back a little further, there are recent reforms in Connecticut, Maryland, California, Hawaii, New Mexico. Those are typically done through the legislature, but when voters have been given the chance to enact a higher bracket like this, they've jumped on it. So Arizona voters approved one last year, bringing their top rate to 8%. Massachusetts voters are going to have a chance next year to decide whether they want to take the rate to 9% for millionaires. I think it's very likely to pass. So I'll wrap up with that, and I really appreciate this opportunity to testify today.
Carl, thank you very much. Any questions from the committee for Carl? Carl, I have one question. Do you happen to have, based on the work that you've done in the states that you've indicated, how many states, like you said, have already put in place something with what we're looking at here in Rhode Island? Can you provide that to the committee, not tonight? Maybe send that to the chairman subsequent to tonight?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. I mean, most states have a graduated income tax rate structure of some kind, I can pass along details on that. I mean, really, this is it's similar. The federal tax brackets already have a rate for people earning $500,000 and up. So in a lot of ways, it's bringing you more in line with federal law in that way as well.
Thank you. I mean, because we are concerned, we have heard about migration of individuals, but as more states do it, there's very little migration to happen if everybody's moving in that same direction. So whatever you can provide to the committee, Carl, would be appreciated. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. You too.